I, Sarah, have finally achieved my dream of opening a cafe. My husband, Jason, also quit his job at the restaurant where he used to work to join me in running the cafe. After all, it was our shared dream to manage a cafe together. Although we don't have children yet, this cafe, which we created through numerous trials and errors, from financing to location and interior design, is like our own child to us. We're incredibly excited about the grand opening day, which feels like showcasing our child. One day, as we excitedly buzzed around preparing for the opening, a visitor arrived. The visitor came to our living quarters on the second floor of the shop. It was Jason's mother, my mother-in-law. She's a laid-back person and has been very accepting of our venture into business. She's so calm and kind that I often think I'd like to be like her when my child gets married and brings a spouse home. It's still a few days early for a celebration of the opening. Despite this thought, when we greeted her, my mother-in-law arrived with a surprisingly large amount of luggage. Shocked, Jason and I asked what had happened, and she revealed an unexpected truth. I was kicked out of Joshua's place. As she explained, my mother-in-law had been evicted from the apartment where she lived with my brother-in-law, Joshua, and had nowhere else to turn but to our home. I knew you two were busy, but well. She seemed apologetic. Her nonchalance made the situation even more difficult for me. But both Jason and I were more upset with my brother-in-law than with my mother-in-law. Jason immediately made a phone call. Joshua, Mom's here alone saying she was kicked out. What's going on? While my brother-in-law Joshua sounded sorry, he was firm in his response. It's absolutely impossible to live together at our place. My wife and I are too busy preparing for a new venture. And we don't have time to care for Mom, who's becoming forgetful. Could you take care of her for a while? We'll come to get her once things settle down here. It was convenient for him to say so, but those words were hard to trust. Originally, my brother-in-law, the eldest son, had reluctantly taken in our mother-in-law. My sister-in-law isn't very good at taking care either, and together with my brother-in-law, they must have kicked out my mother-in-law and are now doing as they please. So, I thought about it. A way to ensure that my kind mother-in-law doesn't feel lonely or mistreated. It's fine if that's what Joshua says. Let's have her live with us. It seemed the only way. Since my father-in-law had passed away and there were only two brothers, there was no one else to take care of her. Though it felt burdensome, my mother-in-law is family to me as well. I couldn't not take care of her, and more than anything, I couldn't leave my kind and beloved mother-in-law. If Sarah is okay with it, then I want to do it too. Jason was positive about it. After all, it was Jason who was more of a mama's boy, so perhaps having his mother nearby was better for him too. Well, thank you. Jason, Sarah. I need to think of something to thank you with. My mother-in-law seemed somewhat aware and unaware of the situation at the same time. She only gave a nonchalant response. Maybe I could cook every day? Oh, but you two are running a food business, so there's no need for me to cook, right? Helping family is natural, I think. But since she offered to thank us, Jason and I thought maybe she could help out at the store occasionally. If you don't mind, would you be willing to help out at the store sometimes? Chatting with customers, making desserts. I think it would be fun to have those moments. I said to my mother-in-law. That's true. If it helps you too, I'd like to do anything. My mother-in-law happily agreed. Considering it an extension of household chores, she would probably get used to cooking in no time. Jason and I discussed maybe having her mainly help with cooking. With the direction of the conversation settled, we went downstairs to show her around the store. As we walked around the cafe on the first floor and introduced her to the menu for the opening, my usually slow-paced mother-in-law suddenly became alert and started speaking her mind clearly. Jason, Sarah, this store won't catch on as it is now. There's still time to turn things around, so get ready immediately. We were taken aback by the assertive idea my mother-in-law suddenly proposed next. For instance, she suggested that, given the current retro trend, even a new shop should have vintage interior decorations and background music. She also recommended adding to the menu dishes she enjoyed in her youth to attract not only the young people riding the retro wave but also the elderly clientele. Furthermore, she pointed out that traditional candy stores have become scarce in this town. So we should set up a candy corner to allow customers who purchase there to dine in, attracting families with children. Each idea was innovative and tailored to the needs of the community. Her suggestions were so spot on that we couldn't help but agree, and under her direction, we quickly began preparations. A few days after our mother-in-law moved in with us, our long-awaited shop opened, and a month has since passed. Typically, a shop with no future would see a decrease in customers after a month, but our shop didn't have to worry about that. Our cafe is so popular that there's a line of customers every day. All of this is thanks to our mother-in-law. Sarah, the sandwich for table 3 is ready. Could you bring it? Sure, right away. Though we're busy, every day is fulfilling. Having our mother-in-law come to stay with us at that time might have been a stroke of luck. However, into those busy yet enjoyable days, unwelcome visitors arrived one day. It was my brother-in-law and his wife. We're from the same town, so we've heard the rumors. It seems your cafe is doing quite well. And I hear Mom is being called a celebrity grandma waitress. With a sneer, my brother-in-law looked around the shop and made his comment. Actually, we've been thinking of starting our own shop. A bubble tea shop, which has been a huge trend since last year. We came to take Mom back so she can help us out. We're here to pick her up. What? What are you suddenly talking about, Joshua? Well, the deal was until we settled down, right? Now's the time. So, give Mom back. You guys have had enough luck from her, right? Now it's our turn. He demanded our mother-in-law back as if she were a lucky charm that could easily be returned. Despite his words, the real challenge for our cafe, which the three of us built together, is just beginning. Our mother-in-law is already contributing as a full-time employee. Who would fill her shoes if she left now? You could hire some part-timers. With your thriving cafe, I bet young part-timers would be lining up to work. They'd probably work much harder than an elderly mom. So, Mom, please thank Jason and Sarah properly and come back with us. To our surprise, our mother-in-law readily nodded in agreement with my brother-in-law's words. Both my husband and I were so shaken by this. Mom, you don't have to listen to him. You should stay where you want to be. Jason, I really think it's okay to go back with Joshua. Sarah, I'm sorry for meddling too much. But I enjoyed working with you both. Visit me at home sometime. Without giving the impression of being taken away by force, our mother-in-law was led away by my brother-in-law and his wife. Suddenly, we didn't even have time to feel frustrated or wronged. However, without the lubricant-like presence of our mother-in-law, both our shop and our home felt a tad lonelier. That was the undeniable truth. Days of busyness where we lost track of time continued, and before we knew it, half a year had passed. Our shop is still thriving today. Undoubtedly, this success is thanks to the advice we received from our mother-in-law, who we haven't heard from since. I wonder if she's doing well. Worried, I thought about calling her, but seeing Jason visibly lonely for being robbed of his mother by his brother, or perhaps sulking as if abandoned by her, I couldn't bring myself to reach out. Welcome. The atmosphere at home wasn't great, but the shop had to open, and customers kept coming. Then, one day, the person who opened the door wasn't a customer but our ever-serene mother-in-law. Sarah, Jason, I've missed you. Mom, what brings you here all of a sudden? We were worried about you not getting in touch. Are you okay? As we took turns asking, our mother-in-law, smiling brightly, echoed her previous sentiment. I was kicked out of Joshua's place. I was helping out with their shop as they asked, but it seems their business went downhill. They said I was in the way, so I left. I was hoping I could work with you again. Once again, for a reason that seems unimaginable for one's own mother, our mother-in-law was driven out. Jason and I were about to devise a plan to teach my brother-in-law a lesson, but it turned out to be unnecessary. It was my brother-in-law who came to us. He looked very worn out. Why would you disappear on your own, Mom? We are having a hard time. Today, his wife, my sister-in-law, wasn't with him. It seemed she was looking after their store. Joshua, don't make it sound like it's my fault. You two were the ones talking about cutting labor costs, so I was the first to leave to help out. I understood then why my mother-in-law said she was driven out. If they wanted to cut costs, it would start with the most easily dismissible, or in this case, my mother-in-law, who arguably shouldn't need to work at her age. That was about the part-time students, not you, Mom. I never said anything about letting you go. I don't want to be in your shop anymore. I don't want to be on a sinking ship. If you were to ask me to use my savings and pension to fund the business because it's failing, that would be the end of me. Don't say that. Come back to the store and give us advice like you did for Jason and Sarah. You said it yourself, Mom. How they let even an old lady like you have a say in the business and were kind to you. We want you to have a say in our business too. It's not hard. No, I helped Jason and Sarah because they wanted to create a cafe that would be a haven for the townspeople, reminiscent of the place I worked at when I was young. You're only thinking about your profit and immediate concerns. That's not true. I opened a shop selling trendy sweets to help revitalize the community. Do you really think so? Trends among the young change quickly. You don't have the adaptability to keep up with those changes, especially as a novice in business management. Even if something is trending, young people are discerning and will move to a better place if one exists. Your shop might be new and clean, but the lack of trained staff means the service is poor, making customers uncomfortable. You might be good at financial calculations from your corporate job, but you have no skill in managing a shop. It's sad to see your employees exhausted from aimless hard work. My mother-in-law sighed, continuing with a look of sorrow as if lamenting her own son's situation. Small-town food establishments can't just mindlessly sell what's popular among the young. You completely fail to understand and capture the customers' hearts. I wonder if you're really suited for the service industry. As a former cafe waitress, it makes me even sadder. I can't and don't want to work in your shop. You could have said something right from the start. You were quick to give advice to Jason, but you treated my situation carelessly. Even if I wanted to, your shop targeted the young from the start. There wasn't much for an old lady like me to say. I can't possibly understand everything about the youth. I'm just an old lady who used to be a waitress. Don't expect too much from me. Now, please don't cause a scene at Jason and Sarah's shop any longer. Joshua, you should go back and do what you're good at, handling the finances. After being harshly criticized by his mother, my brother-in-law finally lost his temper. Enough, we're going back. If you say you only know about cafes, then I'll change our business to a cafe. Then you can give us the same kind of advice you gave to Jason and make me a fortune. He grabbed my mother-in-law's arm, trying to take her away. My husband and I intervened, holding back my brother-in-law. Having heard enough, both my husband and I couldn't hold back any longer and spoke our minds. A person who can't even cherish his own mother can't possibly care for customers. Please go home alone. And don't come to see her again. She's a part of our team, not a tool for making your money. My husband threatened to call the police if the commotion continued, and that finally made my brother-in-law leave. Afterward, my brother-in-law and his wife, who mistreated my mother-in-law, inevitably failed in their business and had to declare bankruptcy. Moreover, they were sued by their part-time employees for power harassment and unpaid wages, resulting in a hefty compensation payout. The couple divorced, and my brother-in-law was also demanded alimony, plunging him into even deeper debt. Having treated his own mother so poorly, my brother-in-law could no longer rely on his family. He would have to live modestly, working to slowly pay off his debts. Hearing about my brother-in-law through relatives, my mother-in-law seemed utterly indifferent and had no intention of offering help. I don't have time to bother with that child. I'm going to be a grandmother. I'm looking forward to taking care of my grandchild. Indeed, neither my mother-in-law nor we had the luxury to worry about my brother-in-law. Our shop flourished even more with my mother-in-law's return, and my husband and I were blessed with the child we had longed for. Sarah, don't stress just because it's your cafe. Work at your own pace. Everyone, including our regulars, is looking forward to seeing your child more than anything. Yes, thank you.